Okay, here I go. All right, so 5:06, and then we'll just get started. Welcome, everyone. My name is Jerry Thomas. I'm the AIEA Secretary, and I also work at the Intertribal Council of Arizona in Phoenix as a Healthy Native Youth Specialist. And I wanted to invite you and thank you all for attending this scholarship webinar, How to Find Volunteer and Cultural Opportunities. So this webinar is geared towards Native American middle school, high school, and college students. This is going to be one out of the 4 sessions that we will be doing together, where we will be featuring information about common scholarship elements that are implemented in basically Native American scholarships. So for this session, we're going to cover volunteer and cultural opportunities and strategies, how to find these opportunities. These opportunities are to basically add to your scholarship application. And again, before we get started, I just want to make sure that I introduce AIEA before we get into sort of the meat of the presentation. So this webinar will cover the cultural and volunteer opportunities that are available, most likely here in Arizona, and to Native American students. These webinars that we put together for AIEA, these are recorded so that they can be posted on the AIEA YouTube channel and for others to view after the webinar and those who might not be here. We do have questions, depending on the speaker, whether it's during the presentation or we can hold off after, but we will have time to ask questions after the presentation. So AIEA is a 501c3 nonprofit that established after Arizona educators who wanted to better serve their Native American students through collaborative efforts. They met and created this statewide organization. In doing so, they started with the mission to develop strategies, activities, provide research and resources to Arizona schools for their Native students to academically excel through culturally responsive education. Things we continue to do are provide a network among Indian education programs that span pre-K to higher education, and then we continue to deliver education services by Indian education agencies through collaboration with other federal, state, and tribal programs. And then we also organize statewide informational events and programs for students like this webinar. And we also do our scholarship and our summer youth camp. And then finally, we provide professional development activities for educators and other stakeholders. We do have a webpage that's under the Intertribal Council of Arizona's website under the programs tab. The Arizona Indian Education Association is first listed. And also, again, we do have a YouTube channel and we provide our webinars for everyone to view and share. And then we also have a Facebook page that is very active and it posts regularly. And we do like current issues in Indian education, we do legislative updates, and then of course we feature our AIEA events. And the purpose of making these education webinars is to introduce topics related to Indian education for students, parents, and guardians, and then educators to learn about opportunities that they may not know about already. Right now, our webinar series focuses on college planning for new and future college students who want to know more about the college planning process. We do this by introducing programs, college and universities, scholarships, and the representatives in this like online layout so we can hear from multiple professionals and gain important info on how to start this post-high school journey of looking into or applying to colleges, especially during this time of social distancing. And we just know we want to make sure that we show the impacts on these programs and their procedures as they change through COVID, and then hopefully slowly going towards the norm. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Amanda. So whenever you're ready.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. Goatsi se hopa. My name's Dr. Amanda Cheromiah. I'm from Laguna Pueblo, which is right outside of Albuquerque, New Mexico. And it's a pleasure and honor to be here with all of you. I'm excited to share more about learning more about how to prepare for college. I think that is a common theme, as well as how to pay for college. But there's specific strategies and steps that I think will help you who are listening. And I just want to acknowledge here in our session today, if you can unmute yourself, is it Earliana? Can you unmute yourself and say hi?
Hi, I'm Aureliana.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Good, good. What grade are you in?
I'm currently a senior.
Awesome.
And
Awesome. What part of Arizona are you calling in from?
Phoenix.
Okay, cool. Well, you are all-star student to be here. So this will be a great opportunity to connect with you, and you'll be the representative for the activities that I have planned. So this is going to be this is going to be like a red carpet treatment for you. So we're so glad that you're here. But I will share a little bit more about myself. I'm going to share my screen here. Give me a second. And I do want to acknowledge that I do have a visual impairment, and so I use a magnifier once in a while on the screen, just so that you're aware of that. So sometimes you'll see like a rectangular shape on the screen that goes on and off, and that's just my magnifier. But here, give me a second here, let me move this. All right. So with this presentation, I had all of you in mind. I thought about our high school students, and I thought about our current college students, about how to find volunteer and cultural opportunities. I think it's really important to understand who we are first too, and when we recognize our different communities and where we're coming from. And I just want to share a little bit about me, and I want you to pay attention to how I designed this presentation. I really am big about storytelling, and I think there's different strategies that you can pick up about storytelling that can help you with your application for scholarships or for college or for maybe even your essays in your classrooms or just for other opportunities. Maybe you're applying for an internship. But so I use a lot of pictures to help describe my story because I'm also a photographer. But I just graduated, well, last year I graduated with my PhD in higher education from the University of Arizona. I like to tell students that I graduated from the 22nd grade, and I will tell you, I think the 22nd grade was the hardest grade because I had to write a dissertation, which essentially is a big long story about how and my topic in particular was speaking with different friends from our tribal communities about how they used running to help them navigate different educational spaces, but also what that meant to them culturally, what it meant to them spiritually. So my dissertation, my story was about 347 pages long. So it really, it varies about how long dissertations are, but I definitely put a lot of thought and put a lot of pictures in my story. But yeah, so in the middle here is my great grandmother, great grandmother. Her name is Kautui, and so my Indian name is Kautui. We don't know what it means, but I do know that I was named after her. So I think it's really neat because this was taken in the early 1900s. If you look at her traditional style of wear, if you look to the left here and you look to the right here, we have that cultural tradition and that presence is evident. You know, nothing has really changed. Sure, maybe our designs on our dresses have changed a little bit, maybe the fabric design just a little bit, but at its core, like our cultural elements in terms of our dress from my tribal community has remained almost essentially the same, right? And I think that's very powerful because the picture on the left here was taken last year, and the one in the middle was taken over 8, 9, 10 decades ago, you know, like, so it's pretty powerful to see how we can carry on our tradition into education, right? So so Earliana, what grade are you in? Oh, you said you're in 12th grade. What tribe are you from?
I'm Navajo, but I also have some other tribes.
Oh, awesome. What are your other communities you're connected with?
Sag and Fox, Creek, Choctaw, and Cherokee.
Awesome. Well, very nice. You have a very rich history. That's so awesome. And so I'll ask you more questions as we go on, but that helps me because when we recognize where we're coming from, so Earliana, how many tribes, federally recognized tribes do you think there are here in the United States? Do you know?
Isn't it like close to 500?
Oh, good job. Yeah, yeah. About like 574. That's a good ballpark range there. So if we think about our tribal communities, we're all so different, right? Like I know that my tribal community is different than Navajo, right? And Miss Kimberly Begave, you can unmute yourself. Where are you from?
Yes, I am from Oklahoma, so I am enrolled with the Kiowa tribe of
Okay.
Oklahoma, but I'm also Caddo and Pawnee.
Oh, awesome. And Ms. Begay, would you say your cultural, even your cultural attire is different from our Pueblo culture here that I am sharing with you?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, yeah. Can you describe a little bit more about your cultural attire?
Sure, for our women, well, for my tribe, I come from a Plains people, and so a lot of our regalia is a lot of buckskin. So we have full dress buckskin. Our men have the buckskin leggings that they wear. Also, we also, well, more contemporary with the cloth dresses. We have what we call tea dresses, which are just a straight tee out if you hold your arms out to your side, and but it's custom for our women to wear those with the apron. And so nowadays, a lot of the younger generation don't wear aprons with their attire, but for our people, that's what the women usually have, is an apron that goes around as well with that. But it's material that's made out of the cotton material now. And so we used to have the material made from buffalo hides, but when the US government started killing off the buffalo, that was our livelihood and sustainability of life. And so that was our food, our shelter, and clothing. You know, every part of the buffalo we used. And so that is what we used to make our clothing out of. But since we lost a lot of our four-legged relatives, we've had to resort to what was provided to us. And so now it's made out of the cloth material, trade cloth material, things of that nature.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, as we can see here, even in just this small example, like we have very different different regalia, and it's so beautiful because all of our tribal communities are so different. So in coming up with this presentation, you have to keep that in mind, because my experience will probably be different than yours, but I think there's some common threads that I think can help you when you apply or when you prepare for your presentation. So as you can see here, like we're telling stories, right? We're sharing stories, a little bit about who we are. And on the picture on the right here is my mom, and then on the right is my sister, and then I'm on the left. So I'm actually going to see my sister tomorrow, and my brother-in-law up in Alaska. So I'm so excited to go up north. But that's a little bit about me. And I think that as we move on here, I want to share about this resource, Native SOAR. This is who I am connected with. I work at the University of Arizona, and I'm the director for the program. And so here are my two friends, Maria on the left and Cheromiah on the right. And we're a mentorship program. So a lot of the stories that I'll share with you today are based on my experience in serving Indigenous youth and serving Indigenous communities. So that's a little bit more about my work. But I would like for you, those who are watching, please take a screenshot of this. And so I am hopeful that this would be a really helpful resource to all of you, because as in education, one of the things that I'm very passionate about is sharing about the stories of our people. And the way that we can do that is through different things like sharing about scholarships, or here, even in this picture is my friend Kyle. So he's Dene. And he, this was one of his senior pictures. So I think it's when he graduated from the University of Arizona. So I think it's really cool. But Ariana, I hope that you take a picture of this. There's all these different resources here and different scholarships that are available here that have different timelines, different deadlines, different requirements. And so I think this is a really awesome resource for all of you to keep in mind. So I want to just mention here, so I mentioned I graduated from 22nd grade, which is quite a long, many years in school. And so I got my bachelor's and I got my master's and my PhD. So that was right after high school. And in my graduation, in that time that I was in higher education is what that's called. It's everything after high school. So in higher education, when I went to college, I earned over $85,000 in scholarships. And I share that with you because there are a lot of opportunities like AIEA and a lot of our other sister scholarships who want to give money to students like you, to help pay for college, to help pay for tuition, or offset the cost for books, or travel back home, or helping with meal plans, or paying for the residence halls. There's so many different types of scholarships. And I just mentioned a few here. These are the ones that I've gotten over the years to help me pay for school. And I think what is awesome is that it's possible to finish school debt-free. And I have a testimony of that. All my graduate school was covered because of scholarships. Now, it's a lot of work to do that, but it's totally worth it. So if you think about it, like one scholarship that I got was from the American Indian Education Fund. So that scholarship was about $2,000. And I got that scholarship. I spent about, give or take, about 2 hours on it. So if you break it down, just think about that. So for every hour I worked on that scholarship, I got about $1,000. Like, that's pretty cool if you like think about it like that, right? Like, I put in 2 hours of work and it yielded $2,000 worth of a scholarship. That's a pretty good paid, like, that's a good payday for school, right? So I want to share some tips about how to describe your story, because people want to know who you are and people want to know what you do. Like, how are you involved? How are you connecting with other people? Because they want to support students who are connected. And there's a lot of ways to do that. So I just want to kind of preference that, and that we're here to help you on your journey. So much love to AIEA for sponsoring this, because it's such valuable information for our community. Okay, so I want to ask the folks that are here, there's 2 students that joined. So if you can just kind of share with me, you can unmute yourself. And I want to welcome Lavinia. So why should you volunteer or get involved in cultural opportunities? So what do you think, the both of you that are in here? You just unmute yourself. How about Ariana? How about you go first?
With volunteering, I feel like it can like help like feel like accomplished in a
Yeah.
way. And
Uh-huh.
then like also like give like that satisfaction that a person can have, and then also like boost like, I guess, like your self-confidence, and like
Yes.
with certain tasks like you feel good about it. And then as
Uh-huh.
well as getting involved with cultural opportunities, I think it's a great way to like connect with people like in a certain group, or be able to like learn more about another person.
Mm-hmm. Very good. That's right on. Very good. So Lavinia, can you unmute yourself and introduce yourself, and please correct me if I say your name wrong.
No, you said, so going back to your question, what was your question again? I'm sorry.
Right here on the screen. Why should you volunteer or get involved in cultural opportunities?
Okay. So I'm a high school counselor.
Awesome.
I am. Hi. I just wanted to just jump on here because I have a sophomore. My son is going to the Cat Foothills, so
Awesome.
I feel like for him, I mean, I'm not only advocating for MFI students, but also even just for my son. So a lot of the times, you know, culturally, like sometimes I'm unaware, like with all the scholarship opportunities and these opportunities that just kind of, you know, like I feel like I'm in the dark still about it. And as far as for him, like I know I wanted him here, but he's in state wrestling right now, so he's practicing.
Awesome.
So for him, yeah, I'm like so for him, like I know a lot of the times I feel like he's not knowledgeable with the, you know, all the scholarships that are out there. And
Mhm.
I only know so much, you know, with scholarship opportunities. And I wish like there is like a spreadsheet or something like to make it very accessible for these kids to start even looking now as they're sophomores, because there's a lot of just money out there. And I'm like, it's just the time and research and the effort and you got to put into these scholarships. Like that was his main thing, is like,
Mhm.
what if you become a student athlete? Like, you know, the school can only provide you so much funding, but it's really
Yeah.
going to be up to him to figure out how to find all the extra monies. Because I mean, I'm not rich, so I mean, I'm barely
Yeah.
like just trying to like I'm struggling now. And like when I heard you talk about getting your PhD, like that inspired me. I'm like, I should have done my part, you know, being a counselor and done my research too. 'Cause, I mean, I just finished my master's degree, and I'm like, I'm already thinking, I'm like, I want to go back to school and get my PhD too. Like,
Awesome.
so
Yeah.
it just like I'm like, I need to be out of debt. Like, I don't want to be in debt forever, you know, and
Mhm.
that's, I think that's, for me, that's the biggest thing is scholarships.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, well, thank you both for sharing. You both brought different perspectives here of why you need to get involved, why you need to learn about different opportunities. So as we go, and I hope really quick, I had a slide with all the scholarships. So I want to make sure you take a screenshot of this. I can't remember when you joined in, Lavinia, but if you can take a screenshot, there's a bunch of scholarships on there. So that's some of the database on a poster, but I hope you get that. So as we go a little bit forward here, and we can go back to it too if you did, we can talk a little bit more about it. But so getting involved, yeah, there's so many benefits of getting involved, and Aurelia, like you did a really good job to share about that. Like it builds your confidence. It helps a person grow when you get connected. And so how to get involved is these are some of the strategies for engagement that I came up with. So number one, I think it's really, really important to understand who you are. Like you need to understand more about what do you like to do and what are you passionate about. So those are some big questions. So as you think about that, I want to share a little bit about my story, and I actually have my website that I'm going to share a little bit about how I figure out how to do this. So again, like you got to figure out like what do you really like to do, because this will give you a good idea maybe perhaps of how to go out and seek opportunities. Because like if I know that I'm not interested in math, like I know that about myself, like I don't really have an interest in math, I'm not really going to go seek out opportunities that involve math, right? Like I'm not interested in that at all, very much. Or I'm not interested in like robotics, like, you know, like I'm not very interested in that. Like I don't really have an interest to learn more about like how all that works or even putting it together. Like I know there's a lot of students who love like getting Lego kits, right? And putting them together or making like Starship Lego figures, you know, like I know there's students that love to do that, right? Like I don't, you know, so I know that about myself though. So this is why I'm getting to the question here, like, what do you like to do? And I guess with that too is what you don't like to do. Because if you can figure out what you like to do and what you're passionate about, that can help you narrow down your search of where to go find different opportunities that you are interested in. So I want to share my website. I'm going to share a couple of things with you because I think it'll be really helpful. Did I stop sharing my screen? I think I did, right? Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here about, this is how I just recently updated this website, but when I think about myself, I think about Indigenous storytelling, right? Like at the core, like that is what I really care about. And that is like who I am. And so I created this like statement here that I put on my LinkedIn profile, but at my core, my hope is, my vision is strengthening the collective and individual self-determination of Indigenous people through education, storytelling, digital media, and advocacy. Okay, so this took me a lot of time to like articulate this into one sentence. So I don't want you to be like overwhelmed by this, but you can see from this sentence, like Ariana, what would you say I really care about just based off of this statement here?
That you kind of like telling like capturing that moment through like I guess like pictures and everything, and then
Ooh, yeah.
the story.
All right, cool. Yes, that is a part of who I am. Yes, very good. Yes, I love capturing with pictures, right? Telling stories with pictures. And that's shown here, like on this website I created. So again, it really is about like personal branding. Like when somebody thinks about you, like what characteristics do you think about them? So the way that I like to describe this, okay, so what color is associated with Coca-Cola, the Coca-Cola brand? Anybody can answer.
Red.
Yes, okay. What about Walmart brand?
Blue.
Yes, awesome. Okay, so now let's talk about Target and Walmart. Okay, who is team Target here? If you can give me a thumbs up or give me like a happy, yeah, okay. Who's team Walmart? I am like a Walmart fan. Anybody? Okay, me and Kimberly. Okay, so when you think about the two different experiences of shopping at Walmart or Target, they're very different, right? Okay, so I see here, so let's see. So Lavinia, why do you like to shop at Target?
Just because I'm a union. I'm all about union. So Walmart isn't about union. So I
Okay.
believe in their just what they stand for. I mean, they're all for the people and their benefits, and and that's, I mean, I'm a part of a union. My husband is a director for Arizona Education Association, so he like instilled that in me. So he's like, we cannot go to Walmart. Walmart does not treat their employees well. So it's all about the person and the individuality. Like, we're in support of that instead of Walmart. Walmart does not treat their employees very well. It's, not equal.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I had no idea about that. Yeah, so that is a really, really good point. Like I'm learning as I'm facilitating this, right? And so so Ariana, which one would you prefer to work at, Target or Walmart?
I like Target.
Okay, why do you like Target?
For me, whenever I go into Target, it feels like a little more organized to me, and everything's just like nice and like stocked away properly. And plus, my mom and I, we kind of had like made experience and memories there. Yeah,
Oh,
memories.
okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah. Great. Yeah, it's a different experience, right? When you go into Walmart and to Target, like, and there's different reasons why people go to which or prefer different things. But there are specific characteristics that are associated with each brand, right? Like even with Target, right? Even the lighting is different. Even how like the shelves are set up are different. I saw this one TikTok where this guy went into going into Target to get like a $5 lotion, and he walked out and spent like $250 because Target has like a very interesting way to like set up things where you feel like, oh, I need this, or like, oh, I want this, right? So the branding, so what I'm trying to get to the point here is that each company has a different branding type, a branding style. So when you think about students, it's something very similar. Like we have our own characteristics that make up our own personal brand. Okay, so like with me, I'm different than all of you here in this room, right? Like what my passions are, but now I know that some of our passions align though, because we care about school, like we care about education, we care about our community, right? I know that we have some similar values, but then there's also differences about us too. So what I'm trying to share with you here is that like with these different characteristics, like you have to know who you are. And I want to share just about this section here. So with the About Me, I put this here. I thought this was a really interesting exercise that I would encourage you to do later on. But I was coming up with my own personal mission. And I know that my mission is to build the confidence of our Indigenous people, especially Indigenous youth and college students. Like, absolute, that is like me. Like, that is what I hope to do, my personal mission. And how I want to do that in my vision is to amplify the narratives of our Indigenous people and communities through storytelling and digital media. So that's like the how. So when you consider who you are, like, think about what your mission is. Like, what do you want to do? Like, you know, like, how do you, these are some big questions, right? I know that when you are a student and you're like in high school, you know, like you're concerned with like, what's happening this weekend, right? Which is awesome, right? Or concerned, like you really care about, maybe you're in sports, right? Like, when is the next match, or when is the next basketball game? Like, all that stuff is so fun, right? And so, but you, over the years, like, you'll start to learn how to figure out what you're interested in. And so I'm gonna go back and share my PowerPoint here again. And so the point of me sharing this with all of you, though, is again, I want you to think about like who you are, like what do you care about? I gave you an example of how I express myself and how I care about my what I care about. And so I want to share, okay. So so storytelling and photography, like building up our communities, that is truly like who I am. So I want to share a couple of videos with you here. Again, this is TikTok. So I am a TikToker. I love sharing about college on TikTok. And so I want you to think about like what creative assets are at your fingertips, right? Like, if you're on social media, like I know a lot of our Native students are, right? And them themselves are content creators. But I want to just show you these really short digital stories, these videos about what I care about. And so again, think about, though, I'm using myself as an example because I know myself the best, but I want you to think about like, what do you really care about? So, and this one is about scholarships. So this one is like a commercial, honestly, but here's some scholarships too that I think are important to take note. Indigenous students, it's time to apply for scholarships. Can you hear it? Yeah, okay. Over the course of my master's and PhD program of 6 years, I applied for over 20 scholarships and I got over $85,000 worth of scholarships and finished debt-free. So go get those scholarships. I don't want any excuses. That money's there for you. Go apply. Here are some scholarships to check out. The Cobell Scholarship. The American Indian Science and Engineering Society scholarships. The American Indian Education Fund. This is an awesome scholarship. They give cool care packages to their scholarship recipients. The American Indian College Fund. This is a really good scholarship for those that go to TCUs, tribal colleges, and universities. The American Indian Graduate Center. The Udall Undergraduate Scholarship. The Native Graduate Health Fellowship. Much loved the Teresa A. Mike Scholarship. I've gotten several $1,000s from this scholarship as a team. Catching the Dream Scholarship. The Indian Health Services Scholarship Program, IHS. American Indian Services Scholarship, so check them out. Make sure you look into your own specific tribe's educational scholarships as well as your institution scholarships, because there's a lot of funding that way too. Remember, scholarships are free money, so that money is yours. So go get it. Again, I don't want to hear any excuses. I believe in you. You can get the scholarship money and be debt-free when you finish college. All right, so that is the scholarship video. Here's one about my culture in school. All right, and here's one more commercial. Indigenous students, this is your commercial break to remind you to apply for scholarships. This is scholarship season right now, and you should be putting in your applications. Check out my page for more information about scholarships. All right, so again, those are very simple ways of how what I care about comes different creative forms. I just wanted to give you some examples because again, like you want to think about like, what do you care about? And it's a very simple question, but it can be very hard to answer sometimes. So I just want to take a moment here and just take a short break here. So looking at this, so Ariana, like I'll ask you this simple question, like what do you care about as a senior right now?
Well, right now my main focus is just mainly caring about school.
Okay. Nice. What do you like about school, or what do you care about in school?
Right now my goals is just really just trying to push through it and then graduate and then just move on to the next school for college.
Awesome. That's awesome. So tell me more about what do you do in school? Like what do you love about school?
Well, I really like to like help improve myself with everything, like just like gaining the knowledge on like what I can do better and just like also learning about like new social issues.
Interesting. Are you involved in any clubs at all?
Yeah, I'm currently the president of the Native American Club.
Ooh, nice. And what do you do with that club? What do you all do? Yeah, in your meeting times.
Well, I mostly like give them like scholarship opportunities since I'm also looking for scholarships, and I
Uh-huh.
also try to find like volunteering opportunities within the club because we've done volunteering as a group, but I just really want to have like more.
Mm-hmm.
We also like to have like community events, I guess, kind of
Mm-hmm.
just like all of us getting to know each other and just having that sense of like place where a person can go.
Awesome. Wow, I learned so much about you in just like a minute. So you really care about giving back, right? It sounds like you care about helping others come alongside, right, to help. Like it sounds like you're a mentor to younger students, it sounds like in the club. It sounds like you the community events are really important to you and you really care for them. Wow, that's a lot in just that short amount that you told me. So I hope you're taking notes, because as you write, hopefully write this stuff down, because this will help you. Because the whole point is like to help articulate on paper who you are. That's essentially like what it is, right? And so like you just told me so many different things and I'm like, that is awesome. Like I want to know more about that. So when people look at your scholarships or look at your like statements for scholarships or for a job or whatever, like they want to know what your character is. And just by you telling me that, I'm like, whoa, she is like doing some things, right? I want to know more for sure. But like just from that basic statement, I'm like, oh my gosh, like tell me more about your involvement, right? Like you're already doing that. And so awesome, kudos to you. All right, so let's go to Lavinia. Like, what would you say like your son cares about?
What he cares about is mainly sports. I think, well, he plays 3 different sports. He plays football and does wrestling and then baseball. So his main outlook right now is to find a school where he can play more than one sport. And for him, it's just, I think, being involved and staying busy. And I know like right now academics, I think for him is he's starting to notice like classes are getting a little more challenging, so it's like finding the resources and asking for help because he will not do it unless I push it. And I mean, literally gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, if you're not gonna like do it, you need to self-advocate. So you're gonna sit down and you're gonna pull up your computer and I'm gonna watch you make an appointment with your teacher and find a way to get extra tutoring in this geometry class that you're finding difficulty with, you know. And I think that for me is like for him it's like instilling that like he needs to self-advocate, because he will never ask for help until he's sitting at a D. Then he's like, yeah, and then go and check his grades, and we're like, okay, why do you have this D? Why, all the why questions. And his thing is like, I'm busy, I have practice. But you can practice not only with your team, but then you're practicing again with your friends. Like you need to work on time management here. So because I think when in the future, that's what I keep telling him, we're not going to be there, by your side in college. If you do decide to go, full on with these sports, you have to figure that out yourself, is like time management. You got to put in your time with your sports, but also your academics, but academics is always first. So, and that's like, for him, that's like the hardest like thing for him, is to grasp that concept. I'm like, well, in grade checks, I'm like, he has never like, I mean, grade checks are fine with him. Like, oh, he's like, oh yeah, I have a C, I have a D, and then that's okay with him. But it's like, no, that's, for me, that's like failing.
Yeah.
So it just, for me, like for him, like being a sophomore and he's already in varsity with wrestling, it's like,
Oh, awesome.
dude, you need to figure out your priorities. Like you need to start setting that up for yourself, and you be disciplined. Like you're disciplined with your sport, making that weight cut. You will also need to be disciplined in your academics as well.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And with your son, like he's already involved. It sounds like he's heavily involved with sports. Which those are the glory days, right? In high school, those are like the best days.
I always tell him I live vicariously through you. So usually our workout, like when I train with him, I'll like set up an appointment with him and my trainer, and we'll go weight lift together. And I'm like, all right, who can outlift one another?
That's so cool. How cool is that? That's so neat. Like, so if your son were to do like a resume today, maybe, or a personal statement, like, it's neat because he already has all those different components, those 3 sports, right? Like that discipline, as you mentioned, the discipline to exercise 5 times a day at 30 minutes a day or something. I don't know, whatever. Like I'm trying to think about like how you can quantify these statements. So this is a tip for both of you and everybody listening. When you're talking about your involvement or things that you like to do, try to quantify it. So like on resumes, right? Like, so if you create a resume where it says like, I are dedicated community service in my neighborhood. Okay, dedicated community service in my neighborhood. That's one statement. So what if I said dedicated over 5 hours per week for 10 months in my neighborhood? Do you see how that changes the statement?
Yeah.
Like if you were just to hear like, okay, wow, okay, you get 5 hours a week, that's a lot. Like, like, so those are really power statements. So as you think about like your son, like try to quantify even how many hours he spends like training, right? That is a powerful number. He probably trains like, I don't know, maybe 30 hours a week with practice and all this other stuff, right? So like if you can quantify it, like when you're writing statements or getting ready for college, like, he dedicated X amount of hours towards this sport and he's in varsity leadership or something like, and Ariana, like think about that too, right? You're doing community events and were any of these done in the pandemic, Ariana?
Yes, it was.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Look at you. Like that is powerful. Like we know that our communities have been hit so hard, right? Like in the pandemic. Ariana, would you mind telling me a little bit more about what programs you've done during the pandemic? What community events you've done?
So we mainly what's it called? Partnered up with this nonprofit organization called Hopi Relief.
Yes.
And then we since the Navajo reservation was being hit very hard, we wanted to like the Hopi Relief, their motto was kind of like to like help and support them. So basically we unloaded boxes, assembled cardboard boxes, and then like carried and lifted it, like the hygiene packages that we provided. into
That's
the tribe.
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Sorry, I keep cutting you off. I'm all excited.
That was one of them. And also they were very nice enough to also help the school district I attend
Mhm.
by giving food boxes as well as to anyone in the district that needed them
Wow, that's
during the pandemic.
powerful.
And then we also had another event that we worked with. I forgot what position he has, but he works at he's one of like the political people. I forgot which position he has, but we worked with him and Hopi Relief so we
Mm,
can like use like his parking lot, and then he also advocated for another district
mm.
event for food boxes.
Wow. Gosh, you've done a lot, Ariana. Much love to you and your the leadership you have in helping your community get involved with this. Like that is a powerful testament to your character. So do you like even just you telling us that story, like we already have a good sense of like your character, right? That again, that you deeply care about your community, you deeply care about our native nations, right? Like that's what I got from this minute long story you shared, right? Like so think about like how you can quantify those statements in your scholarships, right? Like or even like when you share in your applications, you want to share stories. That is how people connect, and you want to make sure that those stories are compelling. So imagine this, like when you think about your involvement, right? Think about you're in a room of 100 people. If you're in a room with 100 people and you were to say one statement, you want everybody else to sit down. You want to be the last person standing with that one statement that's only true to you. Okay, so for example, if I were to say, I identify as an Indigenous woman, just here in this Zoom room, if you identify as Indigenous woman, can you raise your hand or give me a heart or some kind of emoji reaction? Okay, Kimberly, that's okay. All right, yeah, so there's a few of us here that identify, right? Yeah, so that is a beautiful thing. Okay, so I'm gonna give you another statement that I can share a story about how I was the daughter, how my mom was an FBI agent, and I can share about being the daughter of an FBI agent. So if you can relate to that experience, can you give me a heart? I hope this works. Okay, okay. I don't think anybody can relate to that, right? Like, okay, that is true for me, right? And that is a unique story to myself, right? So think about that. Like, so Ariana, like when you think about like helping the Hopi, that is a very unique experience, right? Like, what did you learn in that? Like why did you do that, you know, like what, who did you connect with in that time, like sharing those details in a story, like in a scholarship application, that is powerful because it's during the pandemic, right? Like Navajo's connected to Hopi, like even geographically, right? Like there's so many different angles you could talk about with that, right? That story that you just shared. And so and Livia sorry, Lavinia, so even like with your son, right, he's involved in so many sports. Like what were moments of great triumph for him, or what were moments that he had to overcome, you know, that really made him understand more about who he was, right? Like those are those stories. Oh yeah, you can answer that if you want. Go ahead.
No, like I think he got injured early in the season for football this past fall, and he was like back into this groove, and he was just like so ready and amped up, and then he ended up getting hurt before even the season started, and then he was out, and I was just like, bro, like you need to like calm. And I've been telling him like you shouldn't be training, because he was training all summer long and he was just you know, on fire. But I think like this injury that happened, like it kind of made him just like slow down. Like you've been going so hard, and I've been telling him like you need to slow down. Like you just need to take it easy. Your body needs to recoup. I mean, he was going like 6 to 7 days a week just training, and I think his body when he got injured, I'm like, that's telling you your body needs to rest. Like it couldn't have come at a better time. And I think through that he learned his lesson. Like, you know, yeah, you're a great athlete, but sometimes injuries and things happen accidentally, you know, and you know, that's just, you know, what life is. You know, you get blindsided sometimes, and literally this was what that moment was for him. And but he eventually came back, but he only got to play like 2 or 3 games of the season, and his position was filled with somebody else's another player. So he was just, I think, really bummed. And but through it, I think he was just mentally just trying to go through the motions and just, you know, like, you know, there's that happens. That's life.
Yeah, that's a very good
So
example. Yeah, like of how what he learned and how he overcame that. And I think that and just for other folks who are listening too, who may have other experiences, like even how you overcame different parts of the pandemic too, that's also a very powerful story. You know, like there's a lot of ways. Think about how you can tie in your culture to that as well. Like one example I can think about, like I know that there's like some runners, like our Hopi Hopi runners are awesome. Our indigenous people are very gifted runners, and there's so many communities all across our country and throughout the world where there are these amazing runners from our indigenous communities. And so I wonder, like another example could be like maybe there's a runner, right, who has a really strong connection to their culture, about the culture of running. Like I think about Hopi, like I did my dissertation on Tiwanima was a Hopi runner in the Olympics. And so he ran in the early 1900s. But I know there's a lot of young men in particular up in Hopi who have a strong connection to that tradition of running. And so could you imagine writing that right in your personal statement? Like, I am a runner, you know, I participated in X, Y, and Z, and I can connect that to my culture. I run because of our lineage and our heritage as runners, as Hopi runners. So I'm just giving that as an example, right? Like, so it's really neat how you can tie in your own creative background and culture into that too. So I think that that's really, really powerful. But yeah, I just wanted to take a break and just kind of hear from both of you here. But I want to jump back into the presentation. I gave you a lot of tips within that little segment, but I'll keep going here with this. Okay, so with this, yeah, storytelling. So that's a little bit about who I am. Okay, so the why for me, and this goes to understanding more about why do you do things, right? Why do you care about things? And for me, this took me several years when I was in college. Like it took me, even in my master's and my PhD program, I finally figured out the why. So it can take some time, but I think if you can at least have this in your mind, like I think it can help. Like, so the why for me is that this is a picture from Carlisle and Indian Industrial School, which is in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and it was established in the late 1800s. So if we look at this picture here, so Ariana, if you can do me a favor and unmute yourself and describe to me, what do you see in this picture?
It kind of looks like a boarding school.
Yep, it is a boarding school. Yep.
And there's children of all ages in this photo.
And what do they look like? What are their expressions like?
They kind of look not like impressed, like kind of like sad. Like it's not very like appealing, like happiness.
Yeah, right. Yeah, these young Native kids look sad, right? So yeah, looking at this picture, right? These young people, they oftentimes were forced to sacrifice their culture in many ways in exchange for white culture, in exchange for this mainstream culture in this time. And it was interesting because these young people were always the ones being photographed and we're not necessarily always the photographers. So meaning that their stories were always typically told for them, and sometimes they didn't have the ability to share their own story. So for me as an educator, as a storyteller, I recognize that now I have the ability to share my story my way and how I want to. And that is the why for me, and that is my main motivation of why I do what I do, to help other Indigenous youth and our Indigenous community, empower them to share their own stories. Because when we look at another photograph here, this is Tom Torlino. He's Diné. This is probably one of the most famous before and after photographs from the boarding school time. But Ariana, if you can do me another favor again. So describe to me the left picture. What does he look like here? What are some characteristics?
He has his jewelry on and his traditional everyday outfit, as well as his hair is long.
Yeah. And then describe to me the picture on the right side.
On the right, his hair is cut and he's wearing a formal attire.
What do you say? What do you think this picture says? What does it say to you?
It looks like that he lost his sense of culture and like the personality that he.
Yes, yes, very good. That's a very powerful statement. Like it definitely the transition here, that was the whole point of this picture, was to show that this school transformed this Diné person. And so it's really interesting when you look at this, the history of American Indian education, especially in boarding schools. Like we know that now, you know, when we look at ourselves, like this is part of our heritage as Indigenous people. There's a lot of Native nations, including my own tribal nations, that were represented here at this school. But I hope that you get the point. Now, this is the why for me. So it's trying to figure out like why do you care? Like, remember I asked you, like, why do you care about what you care about? Right? And this kind of gives you a little bit of insight as to how I came about that, like learning about this. And so for you, it's figuring out that too. Like, why do you care about what you care about? Why do you care about wrestling? You know, did you have an all-star wrestler in your family? I don't know, you know, like, I don't know, like what it is, but the why is so important though. And I think that as you look into understanding more about yourself, looking at your digital imprint is really important, because a lot of times, you know, as young people, you know, social media is so accessible, right? Like you could rant about anything on there, right? And then just put it up. But knowing though that it's accessible to you, but it can also be accessible to people who are reviewing your applications, whether it be for a job, whether it be for an internship, maybe a scholarship. It could be very easily to Google somebody, right? And so it could be an indicator of showing like, okay, how do other people perceive you? So this is something to be very mindful of, especially as you get older and in this digital age, is that as storytellers, we also have a responsibility to make sure that we share our story our way and how we want to. So I just want to show you really quick. I Googled myself and I just want to show you like what popped up. Give me a second here. But I really encourage all of you to do this, is to Google yourself and just see like, hey, is there anything up there? Is there, you know, is there sports articles written, you know, like in terms of like, I think about your son, and just thinking about like, you know, was he published anywhere? Like, you know, all that stuff is like really neat to just consider. But hold on, I can't talk and do this at the same time. Hold on, give me a second here. All right, let me focus.
Now you got me scared. I don't want to look at myself.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so right, but it's interesting because people do it all the time, like Google somebody, right? Like even if you meet somebody like a friend or something, right? Like for the first time, like, oh, I'm gonna Google them. Like, what do you think? What comes up, you know, on social media? So this is what came up for me, like College of Education. You know, my website popped up, my YouTube channel, my LinkedIn, my Instagram, and then I want to show you my pictures here. So here's my pictures. Oh my goodness, there's so many pictures. But but I'm so curious to know, Lavinia, what would you say? Just looking at my pictures, and my feelings won't be hurt. Whatever you perceive, like as I Googled my name, what do you think? Like as these images pop up.
She's a model.
Nice. Okay. All right. What else?
No, you're like, what I see is like a very educated, motivated, determined, successful. Like that, like if I was a little girl and I saw that, I'd be like, oh, I want to be her someday. Like that would
Aw.
be the goal. And I would like to be a doctor. Like that's what I would see, and it'd be like
Aw,
inspiring.
that's
And
really
you're
sweet.
very outdoorsy, and you could tell you look like you're a lot of fun because you're always smiling in your pictures. And then you
Oh
embrace
yeah.
your culture. I mean, part of it is like, I think you still like, it
Mhm,
shows that you know, love who you are and you carry yourself
mhm.
in a different way. And basically, I mean, it's like in a really professional like manner. And, you know, if I saw that, I'd be like, okay, you don't mess with her.
Okay.
She's Queen
Awesome.
bee. She's got all her
Awesome.
shit together. Like, you gotta be
Awesome.
respectful.
Awesome. I really appreciate that feedback.
Yeah.
Ariana, what do you think about me? And again, no, you can say whatever you want. No hurt feelings here.
You look like a very successful woman who's really involved in your culture,
Hmm.
and you always look like looking for like education and
Hmm.
like very inspirational.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So what both of you just said is very heartwarming to me. And that is who I hope to be, right? Who I hope to be a role model that inspires our people, right? Like as we go back to my mission and vision, like that embody that is me, right? And it's interesting because you can't really control Google. So all these things here are just like, just pop up. But if you the main point here though that I want you to think about is that if you were to Google yourself, what would pop up? Is it something that you're pleased to see? Is it something that you might not be pleased to see? Like so sometimes, like, so there's different things that students can do to have a digital presence, including like getting a LinkedIn, getting like a Twitter, right, getting Instagram, TikTok, like all these things are there, but knowing though that what you post you're responsible for. So there's this fine balance there, right? Like because with my TikTok, I do publish that in my CV, my curriculum vitae. That's how you say it, right? My CV. And so that really is a place where I do put my TikTok on there because I talk a lot about scholarships. So that I know that a future employer could go look at my TikTok though, and I know that I'm responsible for what I say, right? Like, and it shows my character. So I want you to think about though, like think about that too. What is your story in your digital imprint? And I understand that there's some students too that don't want to have an imprint, right? Which is perfectly fine. Like there's a lot of our indigenous people that don't want to be seen or be found right online, which is completely okay. Like my mom doesn't want to. Like as I've gotten more followers like on TikTok, like my mom doesn't want to be in any of my social media, which I completely respect, like and so yeah, but it's interesting though, especially with our young people. Like I know a lot of young people are on social media though and have these different platforms. So again, one is like Google yourself, do that and see if anything pops up. But if you want to have a digital presence and you want people to find you, like think about though what that story would be like. So yeah, so that's something to kind of keep in mind. But I'm gonna keep going here. I know we got like 10 minutes. And so Kimberly, two of you, I know that there were some questions too that you had. But I only have 4 points, so I'll finish up here. But let's go to point number 3 here. Let me share my screen really quick. Give me a second here. Okay, so with this, a great way to get connected is to find a mentor. And this could be personal, professional, or academic. So finding a mentor, I know can be a little challenging. Like when I just wanted to state this, that it can be scary to initiate a conversation. But I want you to know that you can do this though. And I share this because I know that my sister is a college student. She's in her master's program at the University of Alaska Anchorage. We've talked about how do you find a mentor, and I've shared with her all these different strategies. And for her, it really is she's hesitant because it's just hard for her sometimes to like ask for help, and that's okay. That is okay. To I think the most important thing to do is to recognize it, but to know though that there's a lot of people who want to help you and will help you. So I think it's important to know that, but important to know that you can do this and that you can connect. And here are some ways of how to do this, of strategies of how to find a mentor. So one, of course, is to join a school club, to connect with the advisor of that club. So Ariana, do you have an advisor for your the club that you oversee, or a teacher that helps with that?
Yes, we do.
Awesome, great. So yeah, so that's a great example like that, right? Like to connect with an advisor. They know people, people know people, and honestly, like referrals is how you get connected. Like that's how I met Miss Kimberly, right? Like we got connected at we went on a car ride up to Phoenix, and this was like years ago, and that's how I got connected with her, and like now all these years later we're still connected and have this really cool friendship. And our professional work too, like she comes to campus, like she's one of the educators here in this photo, like, so it's so neat because like once you connect, you get connected to more people a lot of times, which is really, really cool. So another way too is if you have a LinkedIn, that is another great way to connect with people. So I'm thinking in particular for college students who are already in their first year, perhaps second, third year, fourth year, like college students, LinkedIn can be a very powerful tool to connect with professionals. And so I know that a lot of people, when I get asked to do different talks or different events, people will look at my LinkedIn and they'll see like, okay, who is she connected with? Like what's on there? But there's different ways when you connect, you can also message the professionals too. Like, hey, I see that you're interested in this field. Can we meet? I would love to learn more about your field. Or something. And sometimes it's just really being just straight up like, hey, I am looking for a mentor, like, can we meet? I'd love to connect to learn more about your field. I'm saying something like that. Like people typically are very willing to mentor other people who are coming up in the field or who are learning. Like that is a great way to connect. Another one too is to ask family members if they know anyone who is in a field that you're interested in. Family members are a powerful resource because I know like my family is like knows all kinds of people all over the place. And oftentimes I ask my mom, I'm like, Mom, like I had this idea, like, do you know anyone like, like that you could refer me to, that I could talk to? So it's really neat. Like your family is a strong resource if you're interested, right? They're connected in so many ways in the community. So just think about sometimes the resources right there in your backyard or your living room, right? Like just ask, and sometimes your family will know resources and people right away. And then also asking an academic advisor or counselor for suggestions. I think that's also a very powerful resource. And I know sometimes depending on the school size and that you have to make appointments and set that up. We really encourage you to be proactive with that. Do what it takes to get that appointment, right? Remember, you want to be the student that stands out above all your other peers, right? So I know that academic counselors can have a lot of students that they work with. But if you schedule those appointments, right, if you meet with them consistently, like they'll remember you, right? And then you'll start to develop a relationship. Or you can ask them too, like, hey, like who else do you know that you think can help me with this, or learn more about this, or get connected, or learn about volunteer opportunities, right? Like, so that's a really great way. Ask an elder and teacher or an advisor if you can volunteer with them too. Oftentimes people always welcome, usually welcome helpful hands, right? They welcome people to volunteer, especially now in this COVID era. There's a lot of organizations that help with COVID relief, still with our Indigenous people. And a lot of times you can go to, even on Facebook, like it's really easy on social media to find, even within your own respective community, like COVID relief efforts. Maybe it is like helping to package food, or maybe it is to like, I don't know, like raise money to donate a couple of socks or something to folks like that need that in a community or something, like whatever it is. Like, I know that during the pandemic, like I felt really helpless. Like when everything was happening, I was just like, I just want to like help our people, but I don't know how. And I remember that there was a couple things that I did. Like one time I put out a message and I was like, hey, I have these stickers, right, that I had made for my dissertation. So I had extra stickers. I'm like, if you just need some encouragement and you would like a sticker, please let me know. And I sent out like 50 little envelopes with stickers on them. And I just sent it out. And I was just like, I just wanted to do something, right? Like, and I'm not doing it for like recognition or whatever, but I really truly care for like those that are hurting. And that's something that I could put on a resume, right? Or put like in a statement, like, when COVID just happened, when our country shut down, like I wanted to do something. So I sent words of affirmation. I sent encouraging words to our community, right? Like that is an example. And it didn't take a whole lot to do that, right? So yeah, so like asking like folks around you to figure out how to get involved is really, really helpful. And then also finding mentorship programs, like Hoop of Learning is a really strong community right there in Phoenix. I just put Native SOAR because that, that's our program here at the university. But even finding like an AIEA has a lot of resources too, like to help with that and get you connected. But those are some strategies of how to find a mentor, because once you find mentors, gosh, there's a whole nother world that just opens up. Like it is really amazing. And they can also help you, like if you want to get advice for scholarships, get advice of how to write letters of interest. Like they're so helpful. I have so many mentors that range in ages, that range in professional fields. I have some that are elders that teach me more about their culture. But I think that like getting to know, writing down all of these things is really helpful. Like one thing, I think we're running out of time here, but I want to, this is an activity you can do, is the Where I Am From poem. So I use this a lot with students, but if you write a poem and every single sentence starts with where I'm from. So mine, I put where I'm from, we eat chili stew and tortillas. I think it's called chili wrong, I did. And then where I'm from, my sister and I like to cruise to lowrider oldies music. So where I'm from, that can help you get on paper to understand more about your community, understand more about you, again, understand like your values, right? So yeah, the where are you from poem. So another thing too, and you might just want to take a screenshot of this, is that to fill in the blank to some of these questions, because this can also help you figure out like, okay, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, right? Remember, like I told you, like I'm not a huge fan of math. I'm like, nope, I'm staying away from that, but I do love photography, so my values are, fill that in. I care about, my hope for my community is, in my spare time, I like to, I'm passionate about, and when I Google myself, I find, that's an interesting question, and I can find a mentor by. So when you fill in these questions, this can really help you. It gives you a starting point, okay? Like the starting point is really important, because sometimes you don't even know, like, where do I go? Like, how do I get involved? But like, again, like if you understand more about who you are and what you like and what you don't like, it's a lot easier to go out and to find those opportunities. With cultural involvement, it, of course, is a powerful way of connecting with our communities. And so how do you do that? And when I was thinking about this question, I think the most important thing is to start with your family, or start with somebody that you trust and ask them what the process is for getting involved. Now, okay, because I know, remember at the very beginning, we talked about how there's over 500 tribes here in our country. Each one of our tribal communities has a very different religious protocols, has different cultural protocols. And I can't give you some like equation or some kind of formula for this, because it really is based on your own community. So it could go different ways. Like, so maybe you're not involved at all in your community in terms of like religious or cultural activities. That is okay. That is okay. I understand for a bunch of different reasons, students may not have that opportunity, or it may not be the time yet. Like that is okay. You know, like understanding like if there is a desire to though, you know, if there is a desire to learn more about your community, that is awesome too. Like, because starting with your family can be a really powerful way to do that. And speaking with an elder within your community can also be a really helpful way to figure out how you get involved. Because I know sometimes you have to be a certain age to get involved with something, or you have to be at a certain maturity level to get information, right? Like so it varies just on each tribal community. But I think like at least starting with your people, that the people that you trust that's near you, and asking some questions like, how do I get involved in our tribal events or our tribal religious practices, right? Like I think that's a really good start. And thinking about even contacting members in your tribal council, that can be pretty intimidating. As I write that down too, I'm like, who would I even contact? But I know a lot of tribal communities have youth councils. So youth councils is also a really cool way to connect with people who may be your same age, as well as, I didn't put this on here, but even like the Phoenix Indian Center, or even like the Tucson Indian Center, like some of these local resources too, can also help you connect with folks within the respective community. Asking your friends too. I know it sounds really simple, but that seriously is sometimes a lot of ways how I, even on like Facebook, on social media, like I'll be connected with people from back home and I'm like, hey, I don't understand this. Like, can you share a little bit more about this? You know, like if it's a question that I have. But these opportunities though can be crafted and put into your resume or cover letter. And I just have some examples here, like so like you can put under like a big title could be community engagement. It's like engaged in over 5 cultural dances held in community events. You know, like you don't have to reveal all that happened, right? Because there are really stuff that are sacred and that shouldn't be shared, right? But that at least like gives you, if I were to read that, I'm like, oh, okay, like this person really values their community, right? Like if I were to read that as a reviewer, like a scholarship reviewer, or participated in the 60-mile pilgrimage to southern Mexico. Like a lot of our, you know, like a lot of folks like Yaqui students, Thana Atam students, they'll have pilgrimages to Mexico, and that is so precious, right? That is very, golly, like that if I were to read that, I'd be like, wow, like that is something, you know. Or yeah, I designed a flyer for community feast day, like something like that, right? So these like really get to that cultural component. Like your culture is so precious. Like our culture as Indigenous people is so different than other communities, you know, because one, we come from sovereign nations. That makes us different than any other community really throughout the whole world, but especially here in our country. And so the cultural component though is something though that I really advise you to first speak with those who are around you and who you know. I know a lot of times when I make TikTok videos, people are like, how do I find out about my community? You know, like that's also another question too. And sometimes it's really hard to navigate, but I think that if you start with who you know, I think it gets a little bit easier kind of finding which direction to go. So in conclusion, I if you remember nothing else but this, this is wonderful. Like, I want you to know that you have so many talents, that you have a rich heritage, you're so smart, you're intelligent, and you are ready. And I hope that you in this this presentation here, we're able to get a few tips about how to connect. I just really appreciate the time that we spent here. And I know we have a few minutes left, but any questions or comments at this point before we close? Okay. All right. Well, Kimberly.
All right. Wow. Thank you, Amanda, for that wonderful, wonderful presentation. It's so encouraging. I've always admired the way you just dive in and just that enthusiasm that you have about you, and encouraging our students and our counselors and our educators through this session that you provided. It brought back a lot of memories for me with my children when they went through school, through the K through 12 system. They're both in college now, what they're both still experiencing, in those respective environments. And so it's so important to become involved, and the examples that you provided, to help share out of what you can become involved in, and how important your words are in writing it down on these scholarship applications. That's something we really wanted to highlight, and you did such a fantastic and amazing job in highlighting exactly what needs to go down and what scholarship reviewers look for. So it gives those tips to our students and those who are listening of exactly what they can write down on those applications in order to get that free money, But as I mentioned, there's so many stories that I can think of that my own children went through, going through their educational journeys, and it provided that guidance for them, for instance, with my daughter and becoming involved with sports, like Lavinia's son, she was really involved with sports in her final 2 years of high school. She really focused on academics, went through a very rigorous program, which is the International Baccalaureate program at her high school. And once she got to college, the papers, when students had to write 5 to 10 pages, a lot of the students said, "Oh, that's so hard," and it was a piece of cake for her because that's what she did in high school. So those type of experience help prepare her for what to expect in college, and the study time, the time management skills, that she had to do. And she recently graduated with her bachelor's degree in criminal justice in Indian country criminal justice from Northern Arizona University, where she, during her tenure there, she also she received a student award, for the time or her experience there. I had to look it up, but it's an award that goes to faculty, staff, students, departments, and community members who have demonstrated distinguished service to the Native American community. And so she was the one who received a student award. There's 4 different awards that are given out, which is the Cal Sekiwa Award. I probably messed that up, but just her experience prepared her for what to expect in her education. And the tips that you shared here on asking family members, I still do that. As you mentioned with your mom, you ask her different questions about people she knows, and I do the same thing with my mom, because she worked in tribal entities for the most part of her entire life, professional life, and so that's how I became involved. My own experience of working with tribal politics, I was very involved in the political aspect within my own tribe, and kind of moseyed out and came into education. But just those different experiences and examples that you provided gives a broad and general overview of what you can look for, especially what you're passionate about. That's something that's going to be your drive to continue to move forward, and what applications and scholarships you can look for that will really enhance and narrow down what you want to apply for and where you want to apply to. And so it was just an overall, really, as always, your presentations are really enthusiastic and motivational and inspiring. And so thank you for sharing this out for us, and the time for putting this presentation together, and even Googling yourself. I've done that before, and there wasn't so much way back then, but as my professional career has has been established. It's more involved with Indian education that pops up now, but you know, there's a, I go Google all my names, you know, my first name, Kimberly Dinkle, then Kimberly Dinkle Begay, you know, and see what's out there. So it's interesting, you know, and it's interesting on what pops up. You know, not very many pictures out there of me, but I think the main one that shows up is just what on our district website here in Tucson area. But again, just very inspiring. So thank you, Mandy, for sharing out this information to our students, to our educators, and even for our AIEA staff. It's very motivational. We look forward to having you again. So Jerry, is there anything you would like to add?
Hey, Mandy, I just wanted to say thank you. I was like really thinking about your presentation. And honestly, it brought back so many flashbacks of like 10 years ago when I was trying to apply for so many scholarships. And, you know, now that I think about it, I'm going to make a budget and see how much money I really got, because I did get money to pay for all of my, luckily, for some reason, getting funded for my graduate degree was a lot easier than getting funded for my undergraduate degree. And I think I owe it to myself, because, you know, sometimes I do get those thoughts like, oh, you know, yeah, I went through all this vigorous like training and classes and everything, and all I have for it is like a degree, and I wasn't sure if I was going to go anywhere with it at the time. I wasn't sure if I should just keep going and try to hone in my skills a lot better, or if I should just stop and like maybe just start doing stuff with my community, like all these different things that was sort of like stopping me from doing my my degree. And then here, now that I think about it, I really do need to owe it to myself to actually start thinking about, well, you know, you did come this far. Also, you did invest in yourself. It was a lot of hard work. I forgot about, you know, writing the essays, trying to get those deadlines in, even like the smallest bit of money. I think like I got like $100 from like a little tiny nonprofit in you know, it helped though, you know, whatever amount it is, it does help. And you know, I was just like, oh my gosh, I forgot all about all those scholarships that I had to apply to, all those hours that, there was a lot of hours that you invest into putting together your application. And whether you get it or not, at least you said you can do it. And if you don't get it, you know you can do it again. And you know you're gonna know a lot better about yourself. You're gonna know a lot better about the requirements in the application. So it is a big investment, and I do like that, you know, your presentation was so informational, and it was really specific to Native American students too. You know, it was really hard to find cultural opportunities, especially if you know you're not located close to your community. So I do like that you did point out that all those like things that could stop you, but at the same time there are other opportunities. And I do like that you said, you know, maybe it's not here right now, but maybe later you can focus on it, which is what I really like about that. So, you know, I just want to say thank you, and then thank you for your abundance of information. And we're so glad to have you for these next few months so that we can cover all these other sessions that we're going to be talking about other scholarship topics. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for participating. It was fun.
Oh,
yeah, thank you, Amanda. I appreciate your presentation too. Very, very helpful. I'm gonna go watch your TikTok and I'll go back and re-listen to all your scholarship information.
Oh yeah.
I was like, this is so entertaining, but I mean, every time I listen to you, you're so entertaining, you're so enthusiastic, you're so pumped, and I'm like, I need to drink what she's drinking, man.
It's
I need to be that enthused with that education too.
Awesome.
But no, I really appreciate your presentation. I think for me, what stands out when you talk, for me, it's like when you always say, tell your story, because I mean, the last, you know, meeting that, or the last presentation that you gave us during our PD, and Kim, like listening to her story, it was just like, oh my God, it's like gut wrenching. And it was like therapeutic though to hear that side and hearing everybody else's stories and the different walks of life, and just listen to everybody's educational experience, because you know sometimes it hasn't been the greatest for some folks, and then for some it's like, wow, I had the best experience with education. And then you'd have to just see everybody's walks of life with education and how they've become. I think your mission statement said it, self-determination. For me, that's like coming from a family where it's like first gen, with my whole family. It's like being the first to ever graduate high school, to be the first to graduate college, to first to be the one graduate with a master's degree, and then I'm hoping like PhD. So it's like the first for everything. And like that for me, it just kind of like solidifies like it can be done. You just got to be self-determined. And listening to Aureliana's story too is just like, wow, why wasn't I like that? And for listening to her, it was just like inspiring. She's all about her community. And I was just like, that kind of like struck a chord with me. I'm like, wow, she's just, very, about her family and her community, and just doing great things, it sounds like. And I know she's going to go very far. So for me, it's just all the way around. This was good. This is what I needed.
Awesome. So glad. It's great to connect with you. And Ileana, thank you for coming too. You represented the students. Oh my goodness. Your story is so wonderful. You are doing so many phenomenal things in your community. And we just love you so much. And you're so, your path is just so beautiful. I only know a little bit of it. You told like 5 minutes of it, but there's so much in store for you. I'm so excited to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, thank you so much for presenting this information. I really loved your presentation.
Awesome. You're doing great things in your community. Great.
Yes, I did want to acknowledge Ariana for being here. As Mandy mentioned, our sole student representing, that's the way to do it. And so many stories that, again, just as Jerry mentioned, the flashback, but I love, Mandy, how you implement that culture into your presentations, and really highlight on how you can do that in your educational journey. And that's one of the things we look for in our scholarship application for AIEA, is how do they implement their culture into their educational pathway, into their journey, and not just in education, but in their daily life. And for instance, on what we're talking about here, those volunteer and cultural opportunities, that's what we want our students to really highlight, because there's so much, just as Ariana, showcased here. And just a few minutes she spoke, we've got this whole world about what she does and the passion that she has and what she seeks, and how she helps others in that community. And so it's amazing on what students can do. And there's no limit to what you can do. Just set your mind to it, put the effort into it, and you can achieve it, as is here with the many representations that we have on this call here, in this meeting. I'm very honored to sit among you and alongside of you. We're here to help each other and support each other in that way. And I think that's one of the things our students need to hear, that there is support out there for them in whatever pathway they want to achieve. And so thank you, Ariana, for representing those students here and being that student voice, and for acknowledging those different pathways of what you take and the direction that you have in your educational journey. I think it's important that the students hear that and how they can help with all these opportunities that are available out there. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you, Lavinia, for being on here, representing all of our counselors for the work that you do in helping students achieve their educational pathways, and for providing that opportunity and information for them in here also as well. And one of the things that I just wanted to acknowledge also about my son, with him being involved with his high school, And he actually helped create the first ever Native American student club at his high school. It reminded me when Ariana mentioned she was the president of her Native club at her school. And he went on to, before the pandemic hit, he was a part of the panel that was going to speak out on behalf of the students here in Arizona on the Alice Spotted Bear and Walter Sobolev Commission on Native Children. And he was going to speak out on behalf of the Arizona students. Of course, the pandemic happened and that didn't happen, but that's going to be coming up at the end of the month. And so, you know, opportunities are out there like that, where you can showcase and really encourage to speak, have your voice be heard. And Mandy, you do such a great job in helping get them there by sharing these tips, these resources, this information that you provide is very helpful. So thank you for being with us again, and for everybody for taking time to be with us tonight.
Awesome. Have a good night. We'll see y'all later.
Have a good night, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.